Hi, hello, and welcome to According to Weeze, the podcast, where we're going to have candid conversation with the hopes of finding a way forward in community. See, we exist and experience life at the intersection of our complex identities and our socio-cultural and political systems. And let's be real, the only way to dismantle it all is to start by dissecting it. So get cozy, get comfy, and let's dive in. Hello, 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 and welcome to, I don't even know what episode it is anymore, an episode of According to Weeze, the podcast. I'm very excited today because I feel like I have the second part of the dynamic duo. Last week, y'all heard from one of our amazing Sidewalk Schoolers. We had the opportunity to really get to know about Sidewalk School and you know, the realities at the border, contrary to how American media portrays them, specifically New York Times. Fuck the New York Times. Also, just so everyone knows, if they hadn't already figured this out, and so that you know, almost every single episode, whenever media comes up, the New York Times is somehow at the center of it, and not even on purpose. Like, I talked to an amazing woman from Chicago, and she was like, so let me tell you what the New York Times did to me. And then, so, needless to say, my vendetta against them continues. I bring it back. I digress. So, this is a second part. Part two. It's like a separate conversation, but similar conversation. But we're just going to call it part two for the all intents and purposes. I'm really excited to have just a gem of a human and a bright light. Rainier Rodriguez is here with us today. I'm going to let you tell the people about you and what you do and how you want to be known in the context of this conversation in this moment. But what I will say to contextualize it is this was a conversation I really wanted to have because a lot of times we just generally, when we're looking at, you know, socio-political cultural issues, we're looking at the structural deficits. We're looking at where the problem is. We're looking at how we can fix it. And sometimes we actually forget the people that are in the midst of it, especially when the New York Times and et al. Media are portraying them in ways that are simply not accurate, right? Or doesn't tell the whole story. And so I felt like it was really important to tell the whole story. And so here we are. Hi, welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. So yeah, my name is Rainier Rodriguez. I guess you can call me Ray. Right now, I'm in the context of the Sidewalk School. I'm the director of academics. And just to sort of frame it, I'm an asylum seeker. I was granted asylum last year, January 2020. But I have been there at the border requesting asylum for almost 2 years ago now. It was the beginning of 2019. Mm-hmm. And sort of my time there, it was marked because of the migrant protection protocols and all of that. And then I was returned to Mexico, and somehow I met Felicia, which you guys heard about her already. Yep. And so
we talked to her last week.
Yeah, that's good. So I sort of I met her, and I sort of fell into her go-to translator, and then our friendship evolved. And when she had the idea of opening the school, me being a professor, I was the obvious choice to help her. And so I've been along since the creation of the school, being a teacher, and now sort of doing more helping her lead the school into what it is right now.
Yeah. So, and I want people to know this and understand this, because the way that people's brains work, they're going to hear Rainier Rodriguez. Okay, Latinx. They're going to say, I was returned to Mexico. They'll be like, oh, he must be Mexican. Because we also have this image that's been portrayed, right, and painted of a very specific version of an asylum seeker.
That's true.
So can you tell the people a little bit about where you're from and how you came to the border?
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I think I was just mentioning earlier, just privately, when you talk about me, I know you say when you put my name next to it, you put asylum seeker, people what? Mm-hmm. Because I'm fairly white, almost for a Latin guy. I mean, coming from Cuba and Spanish and all of that. So I say on the bigger side. So I'm. It is what it is. It's true. People,
fabulous. at
Okay,
any size.
yeah. Let's go with that. Yeah, let's go like a Lisa kind of thing. So so people, like they have this framework, like it's from Mexico. It's a skinny guy. It's like
Mhm.
carving, and he's been through whatever. I've been through a lot as well, but I don't fit the mold of what you
Mhm.
think. So
Mhm.
as I said, I come from Cuba. I was lucky enough to be able to go to college and to be I studied for a bunch of years to become a translator and a professor of English. That's why my English is sort of like okay.
Yeah, your English is great. It's exemplary. You speak better English than some Americans.
I've been told that, but we'll see.
I'll
And
say it. You don't have to. I will.
so yeah, I don't fit the mold of like someone you said like yeah he's the asylum seeker. It's like for example when I remember a bunch of times like when I presented myself at the border and I asked for asylum and we were returned and so we were left in Mexico like with no resources, no anything, and we would go every day to the bridge because like the American organizations will come and bring food and all stuff, all of that, and that's how I met Felicia because she was like handing out food, and then I would be on the line and I was like, and all the funny looks like, what are you on the line? You
Hmm.
go to the other side and try to deliver food. Like, no, I'm here to eat.
Yeah.
That sort of thing is it's. I think I got lost along the way with the question.
That's okay. It's however you want to talk about it. This is your experience.
But yeah, it was. I
We're
mean,
honored and lucky that you're sharing it with us.
yeah, but so that made it different, and but it helped a lot as well. Like because of that, I was able to my education and being able to speak English, I was able to help a lot of people to
Hmm.
communicate with like stuff that they needed and to able to sort of like bridge some make it closer for people like yeah some of the volunteers that were coming that did not understand the needs and the things that people were asking for.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think this is a really important note, especially for Americans who don't understand. We like to call them, border camps. I call them concentration camps because I don't know what else you call something that is heavily gated and barbed wired and under resourced,
Yeah, that's true. Like yeah.
right?
In that sense, like yeah, for sure. Like I mean, you can call it a refugee camp or whatever you want to call it, but like the moment like fences went up and there was barbed
Yes.
wire around it and there was a guard
Mhm.
at the door,
Yep.
yeah, it became something else for
Yeah.
sure.
Absolutely. And I think in the stateside especially, folks want to pretend like that's not the case. But to your point, when you're when you're guarding and keeping people in, that's exactly
Hmm.
what it is. It's
Yeah,
internment by definition. But we also get very specific images, right? It's to your point. It's like malnourished, starving, poorly educated, just dirty, unable to help
yeah,
themselves.
and
And then, of
it's
course, the narratives around like the criminalization of asylum seekers, and you're running because God, I don't know how many times you see like gang related or fill in the nonsense around how the asylum seekers are criminals. And for me, I think that it just serves the white nationalist purpose of being able to continue to deny people,
yeah, that's for
right?
sure. Like the whole idea of like there's a bunch of people who just want to hear like uneducated, poor, whatever, who just want to come and steal your jobs, and that's not the case. I mean, like there's I met so many different people with so many
Mhm.
different talents. Like there's a lot of people like you assume like that. Oh yeah, they're coming from Central America. They're uneducated, and that's not the case.
Mhm.
Even the people who are not uneducated, they have their own talents. I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to be that you have to be a bad person because you're uneducated. No, you can
Right.
do.
Also
There's
that.
yeah, right. Like I mean, I mean, they're farmers. Someone needs to actually cultivate
Yeah.
the land. I mean, that's what they like. It's not that they're being forced to. It's like it's a tradition for them. So
Mhm.
yeah, like I don't.
And
It's weird.
and I think that even challenges all of the ways in which we frame people's humanity, right? Because like I don't
Mhm.
know a damn thing about working the land. If you asked me to survive during the apocalypse,
Yeah, me neither.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, I have a lot of other skills that will work during the apocalypse. None of them are include feeding myself. Not a one, right? I can cook it, but somebody has to grow it. Somebody has to, tend to it, so on and so forth. there's a phenomenal amount of education and knowledge that goes into that. But we don't
go.
value that because in the
don't.
States, right, we have also painted a very, very specific picture of what, like, quote unquote, farmers and farmhands and day laborers look like. Again, coming in to steal your job, so on and so forth. And I think this is really important. This is one of the reasons why I was so excited to speak to you, because just when you look on paper, you're like, professor, highly educated, lovely human, very warm. As far as I know, hasn't killed anyone yet. Like, I mean, as far as we know, don't incriminate yourself. But, like, you look at it on paper, to your point, like, this is not somebody that any media outlet is going to spend any time showing the world, because it doesn't fit the political narrative that America needs in order to continue to really abandon its responsibilities.
Yeah, that's true.
To the rest of the world. So I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit about, like, truly what the experience is like in the asylum. Like, what is the asylum process? Because I think a lot of people also think it's like you show up at the border and you're like, hey, knock, knock, can I get in? And then you just like jump over and you're like, I'm here now. And I mean, I know that's not the case, but I would love for you to talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, my experience to begin with, like, is sort of like different because I was put on this diabolical migrant protection protocols, which luckily then doesn't exist anymore. But it's sort of like, the idea of the process sort of the same, but the only difference that it was done in Mexico. So I'm going to sort of like recount what happened to me, so that just to frame it a little bit. So, for example, I myself presented. I arrived at the border, if I don't recall, it was like May 12th, 2019, after a month of like traveling through Central America. Yeah, that's its own thing. So, anyways, getting to the border on May 2019, and then I presented myself. What's what you're supposed to do? I mean, you're supposed to not jump the river because that's a federal offense. So I chose to say that, you know what, I'm gonna do it the legal way because that's the way it's supposed to be. So I arrived at the border. I went to the port of entry, and I said, you know what, I'm Cuban. I'm being persecuted in my home country because of my political views and because of who I am, my sexuality. So I'm here to seek for asylum. So I was told that that was fine, but there was a process in which I needed to go back to Mexico, do a line, and wait for my turn to present myself because they didn't have capacity to take me in. Which, in other words, is called something called metering. That's been in place for a long time. So I was sent back to Mexican officials to put myself on a list. When I got there, I was 1,500 something number, and I was like, okay. Then the very encouraging officer from Mexico said, like, you're gonna be here for 8 months. I'm like, what? No, that's not possible. And it was more. So that's what happened. So I got there. Luckily, I had a friend who had arrived before me, and he was renting an apartment, and I was able to stay with him. So there I was waiting, going every day to the bridge, trying to find out when my number will come up. Because I mean, if your number just like gets jumped, you're like back to the end of the line. So
I I don't want people to miss what you just said.
Yeah.
So it's like at the supermarket at the meat counter where you like pull the ticket and it has a number on it. But you're telling me that there's no like email or phone call. It's like you got to go back to the counter every day, all day to make sure that they didn't jump your number. Because if they do, they're going to say, take a new number. We've already passed you. Yes. Even though you've been waiting for 8, 9, 10, 15 months.
Yeah, take into account that this list doesn't exist. And I'm using air quotes if you guys kind of see it here. That list doesn't exist at all. So if you ask the Americans, that they don't have that list. If you ask the Mexican authorities, they put you in, but afterwards, if you ask about it, they don't know what you're talking about. So this list, at some point, it was printed on a board at the bridge. When things started to be more like when things started to get bad at the border, that list disappeared from the bridge because it was an acknowledgement that there was some sort of list.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had pictures of it, and I could turn them in for my trial. But anyway, I'll come to that later. So
yeah.
So you have to.
America.
America, yes. So we had to go every day every day to the bridge because the other thing is that it's not like like you said, the meat counter. It says like fish arrives at 2 and meat and beef is
Yeah.
at 4. No, they would call you at any time. I mean, if you were unlucky and they sort of like had a opening at 6 a.m., sorry, you were not there. So what ended up happening is like people who were very close ended up staying like in these few tents that were on the plaza next to the bridge. Now, a couple of months passed, and we're like in July, and then this MPP, Migrant Protection Protocols, that had been in place since January in El Paso, I think, or Juarez, it started in Matamoros, which meant that whoever presented themselves would be analyzed. I mean, would be able to present their case, and it would be sent back to Mexico with a court date, and you'll have to remain in Mexico for the whole entire duration of the process. This process normally in the United States can take from 3 to 5 years. However, they made these kangaroo courts by the river, which is the only thing that I could look. They look like circuses, like these huge white tents.
Yeah.
And so they were devised to make this process a bit quicker, in a sense. So my number came up. It was July 16. No, my number came up on, I think it was July 31st or something like that. And then I went in. I was presented. I said, like, yes, I'm here for asylum, whatever. I was given some papers and said, you know what? Yes, we're going to hear your case. Here you go, back to Mexico. You're in the MPP program, and your first court date will be October something. And I was sent back to Mexico. That for many people, I mean, I was, at least because I presented myself through the bridge, the treatment that we got was a bit different. These things were explained to us. There's a lot of people who jump the river because things happen and people are fleeing and stuff like that. And whoever crossed the river, those things were not explained. They were just put in an icebox for a couple of days, and some papers were given when they reached Mexico.
Yeah,
many things happened. I heard many stories of shelters and jobs and food being promised, which of course never happened. There was no infrastructure on the Mexican side. They would just give you a paper that would allow you to be, again in air quotes, allow you to be legal in Mexico and allow you to work, again air quotes. With this paper, you were supposed to be able to work, but it depended on where. So it was very difficult. So
but let me ask, I can imagine that working is fundamentally not an option, though, if you have to basically stay at the bridge all the time to make sure your number doesn't get skipped.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that then when this MPP thing happened, it changed completely. I mean, the whole going to the bridge every day, that thing changed.
So you got the paperwork that said you could work in Mexico after you had gone through that process.
Yes, after I had gone through the process.
Okay.
Yeah, after I gone through that process. Yeah, that's for sure.
So that's during your waiting period till October.
Correct.
Okay, but where are you quote unquote allowed to work?
That's the thing.
Like nowhere?
I mean, you could work. I guess you were allowed to work in a taco shop or whatever. But if you go to a supermarket or stuff like that, they may not. If they were not in the mood for it, they would not. Like some sort of like established business would not take you in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, you take into account that we're in Matamoros, Mexico. Tamaulipas is like, according to Homeland Security, is a level 4 for security.
Yep.
So worse than Afghanistan.
Because of the cartels, correct?
Yeah. So it has the worse ranking than Afghanistan and Syria.
Yeah.
And that's where you're supposed to be sending people to be protected.
Right.
So,
and we demolish those countries. So by we, I don't mean you and I mean America as a government, to be clear.
Yeah. So unfortunately, you add to the fact that those papers, you add like people. I mean, I was afraid to go out, to be honest.
Of course.
Anyway, like you would hear gunshots at night. You would hear the stories of people being kidnapped all along. I mean, no secret that of us Cubans and Venezuelans are sort of a target because we're supposed to be rich.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to have families in the U.S.
Yeah.
So we are a currency for sure. Like we get kidnapped and extorted for money from our relatives in the U.S. So in this whole scenario, so like you need to work because, I mean, I have been on a journey for like almost 5 6 months. There was no money left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the little money that I had, I was trying to save to avoid sleeping on a tent
Mm-hmm.
by the river. So I at least have a roof over my head. So that would mean that me still going every day to the bridge to eat from what the Americans would come, do one of those fasting diets the whole day. Uh, not on purpose.
I was just gonna say, not by
Um,
design. Well, by
yeah,
design, but not by intention.
yes, not by intention. So yeah, that period was hard. I mean, and even though again, me not being the poster child for this whole process, I was lucky that I mean, I again, I have a diploma, university diploma as a teacher of English. So I, as soon as I got that paper at work, I went to a high school and they hired me, and I went to a language school and they hired me as well. So I was lucky in that sense. That's not the case for almost anybody else.
Yeah.
So come October, I present myself. Again, me being lucky, me knowing English, I did a lot of, I was going every day to the bridge. I made a lot of connections with American volunteers. And then through a friend that I made, I was able to find a pro bono lawyer who was able to help me. Because that's the other thing. One of the reasons why this program was developed was that when you send these people out of the country to Mexico, you sort of like, even if their cases are good, you're making them, how do you say, like where you're leaving them without resources to be available for them. Like how do you find a lawyer that will be able to represent yourself in English but can communicate with you in Spanish?
Yeah.
How you find all the documents that you need to present in the case, they need to be in English. So any sort of documents that you have that are coming from Spain or from Latin American countries, they need to be translated. This costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Communication with a lawyer, if you don't speak the language, that's almost impossible. So you're taking people out of the country and sending them to Mexico. So all these resources are not available to them at this. So you have to find a lawyer who's willing to put their lives in danger, go into Mexico, meet with you, and then. So it was all designed to sort of like make hurdles for people to actually win any asylum case.
Yeah.
So I was lucky that I spoke English. I was able to connect with this lawyer who was willingly to do it for pro bono, because that's the other thing. I mean, an immigration lawyer, I mean, normally it costs you like around $10,000 or something like that.
Very expensive.
Where do you get that coming from all these countries like that? Yeah, yeah. I mean, my salary as a professor at a university in Cuba was $20 a month.
Oh.
Okay.
Noted.
So where was I? So okay, so I got to my first court date. Their strategy was to try and turn everything so that I could get the fastest way possible through it. And then I turned in my papers, and then I was given a final court date, which was supposed to be in November. I was somehow, for no reason, rescheduled, sent to December. I got to December, went to my court date, and I'm sort of going to explain what it was, how it was to you. So, as I said, it was these huge tents. My court was at 8:30 a.m. I had to be 4 hours before at the bridge. That meant that I had to be at the bridge at 4 a.m. in the evening in a city ruled by the cartels.
I was just gonna say,
where they cross, where the huge part of the criminal activity is done at night, because they're crossing all the whatever they need to cross at night through the river. So you have to like cross the city at 4 a.m. in the morning, arrive at the bridge, be subject to they would inspect you for scabies and lice, because of course you're a migrant and you're living in a tent, so you must be full of insects and stuff.
Dirty, of course, naturally,
dirty, of course,
obviously.
Naturally, yes, you have to be dirty. So after that, you pass a bunch of like security things inside, and you're sent to one of those tents to wait. I don't know if you've been in an immigration court here in the United States. I haven't, but it's supposed to be a normal court. This has nothing normal. It is like a huge container. The judge is not there. It's a 70 something inches screen TV.
Oh.
Yes. So it's you with a bunch of other people. I mean, a bunch of other migrants who are also applying for their cases. So when it's your turn, you stand up and go to the desk. They have a clerk there who's the one who uses does the computer and scans any documents or whatever, and just a guard. So the judge is on the screen. The government attorney is on the other screen, and the translator is on the screen as well.
It sounds like a recipe for success. I mean, this is brilliant.
It is brilliant. Yeah, it is. It is like that. And
I mean, success if you want to keep people out.
Yeah, successful like what the program was for sure.
Yeah, I see, and you'd never know that this is truly what it's like because nobody wants to tell this story publicly. Please continue.
Yeah. No, I mean, because I mean, one of the things is that these courts were not open to public.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the things that was very. I mean, almost until the end. I think the week that I had my final hearing, I think was January 2020, was one of the first weeks that they allowed people in the tents, and they had been open since October.
Yeah.
So this was happening like that, and then they will call your name and say whatever. And when it was a private one, like then came my final one. The final, it was supposed to be only with you and your attorney. I went for the final one. I think it was December 12th, I think. And then the thing was like smaller. It was a little container, like one of those metal containers.
Like a shipping container?
Yeah, like a shipping container, yes. Yeah, with a TV inside, a little desk for you and the lawyer, and a desk at the end for the clerk.
Okay.
I started doing we started the hearing, and like maybe 15 minutes in, there was a power outage, and the judge's computer wouldn't turn on again.
I wish that people could see my face. I'm astounded.
And this is the beginning of a lot of like things like this. So I was then we couldn't continue because it needs to be recorded. So basically we postponed it to January. And I was waiting for this thing, like I wanted this thing to be over as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And then I guess I'll spend New Year's in Mexico as well. So I was sent to, I think it was January 12th or something like that. We went on January 12th, and we had the final hearing. It's complicated because I mean you're telling your life story, you're saying the reasons why you're here, you're trying to open your heart, and you're trying to say, you know what, this is what happened to me, and I'm not able to sort of like be who I am in my home country. I am not able to live my life the way that I wish I could, and I think I deserve better, right? So sometimes it feels like you're talking to a wall, I guess. The fact that the judge is on a different screen, on a different place, it detaches everything, any sort of emotion for what is happening. I was lucky. My trial was done in English. One of the things that is very important for them is because the judge needs to find you credible, right? And then when you say something, and then you have that whatever you said translated by someone who's devoid of emotions of what's happening, and that's what the judge hears, it changes everything. So me being not the norm, I was able to actually do the whole thing in English, and I was able to say what I wanted to say in the words that I wanted them to be heard. You know, and that to be honest is the sole reason that I think I got the asylum granted. Yeah, because I was able to actually say what I wanted to say the way that I wanted to say it in my words. So that was it was long. It was like 5 hours. The part that I think it's I mean it's I guess it's part of the job the government's attorney to like like ask questions, but there's this malice
Yeah.
or this aggression towards what you're saying. I mean, it's never because I mean the judge asked questions and like details or stuff like that, but there's this tone of disbelief of like I'm not. I mean, what you're saying is untrue. Like for example, remember I told you about the list of the people like the thing. So for my case, was very important because I arrived at border before June 16. On July 16, sorry, Trump issued one of those Machiavellical orders that said that if you had gone through a third country, you did not apply, you did not have grounds for asylum because you had to ask for it in another
For
country.
yeah.
Yes, I had gone through several countries to get to the United States. So because I arrived before July 16, I qualified to get asylum. If I had arrived after, I did not qualify to get asylum. So I was lucky that I took pictures of that list, that I had receipts of me staying in a hotel the first night that I got to the border. So it's something like when I said like, yeah, these are the pictures that were on the bridge, and then she's like, how do I know they were there? That could be anywhere. And I'm like, what? Like the I took. How do I say like how do I tell you like yes, you have to be there to see them. It's like it's at the bridge. Yeah, but that could be anywhere. You could be lying. Why? Maybe I mean, you have maybe the reason you were there is just like you. I mean, do you think I want to make tourism in Matamoros, Mexico?
Right.
That I went to a hotel for a night to stay, like because I want to
Because that
see.
sounded like a fun thing to
Yeah,
do.
I want to see beautiful cartel run Matamoros. No. So things like that. It's very aggressive. You know what?
Yeah.
And then um and luckily, I mean, I guess I think of myself like I know that I'm quite strong emotionally, and I
Hmm.
can sometimes to just separate the emotion from what's happening, and I'm
Hmm.
able to actually respond in the way they should be responded. But there are people who are not. There are
Yeah.
people who have been who they're so traumatized for what happened that once you start talking about what happened, you're unable to actually separate emotion from fact, and then it's just a mess.
Yeah. And then not to mention the language disconnect. If you have a translator that's maybe
There you
doesn't
go.
speak Spanish properly, is not translating for you properly, that in and of itself is
Yeah,
frustrating.
it's
I mean,
frustrating.
even when people are speaking the same language and unable to connect and understand and hear each other,
Yeah,
you get frustrated.
that
Let alone
it
the
is.
fact that the American government clearly, because I really want to make sure people like fully grasp what you said, these lawyers and the judge have already taken the position preemptively that
Yeah,
asylum seekers are
yeah,
criminals and liars and that you have
yeah.
to I just my
Yeah,
brain
I mean,
hurts
at
Rainier.
least from the, I mean, at least I didn't sense it that much. At least from my judge,
Yeah.
she was quite, like very, how you say, like, she never leaned over the other side, But this lady that I mean, and but what I found was the lack of preparation. It was
Mm,
stunning. You could see that she had never read my case. She was
yeah.
reading it on the spot, and they're like, "Well, it seems like Cuba is a great place for gay people." Lady, have you read the news lately?
But
Like, yeah. I mean, this stuff like, but
have you read
like
nothing in history ever?
6 months ago, they tried to do a gay parade, and they were all like lifted and taken by the authorities. Like, have you is that is on my thing, it's there. She's like, yeah, but like, well, this is not, and like it's stuff like that. I know it's just like, I guess, lack of preparation
I
mostly.
mean, I would take it a step further and say beyond lack of preparation, it is truly, and this is a very like American thing, that it's truly a matter of Americans do not have a global international context, politically or historically. Because our
Yeah.
our education system intentionally, we don't even teach American history properly. We're definitely not teaching about the history of the rest of
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah. But it's just funny, like I mean, one of the things that they give you when you're gonna start this whole process, they give you this memo of Cuba situation done by DHS, and it is there, like the things that are happening in the country. It is there that the gays have been like, like sort of like persecuted at times and stuff, and it is there that the things that and you just have to turn on TV to see, like, every week Trump comes up with a new sanction in Cuba. So what are you saying? Like, is it good? Is it good or is it bad? So it's this disconnection of like this, what you're saying and what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so after that's all like my impressions on the whole thing.
I'm just sitting here also wondering. We already know that bias and racism and bigotry and misogyny and transphobia and homophobia are real globally. And I'm wondering how much of that bias comes into play. So, for example, for you, right, you're talking about, I need to leave this country because I have these identities, which means this is how my life is impacted.
Yeah.
If you get, especially in Texas, right, a very, very Christian conservative judge who's like, I mean, I don't disagree with Cuba. Bye. Best of luck. Send them back. For the solely because they're incapable of separating their own bias. Because they don't necessarily, they're like, why would you need asylum? Yeah, you should be persecuted. Because they hold those beliefs too.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine, like, beyond the, and I know these are things that but like, I'm really fleshing this out because I need people. My goal with this show is really to get people to for this to be thought-provoking, for this to be something that really pushes the way that people understand how our political system and our quote unquote, big ass air quotes, judicial system, our justice system actually work to continue to insulate existing mainstream identities, ideologies, belief systems, so on and so forth. Our entire asylum process is actually not built to provide safety to anyone.
Honestly, it's not, and it was not built for that. And on top of that, if you don't actually, the little protection that it provides is not actually applied properly, then it goes out of the way. Because, like, I mean, like for example, you're supposed to for asylum, you're supposed to prove even a 10%. Not you don't have to like prove like that. You have to prove a 10% that something that you will be persecuted in your home country, and like people come with like hundreds of like actual facts and stuff like that, and they say like, no, I don't believe you, or no, this is not the case, and like it's heartbreaking. And the whole process about it, I mean, this whole MPP thing is just like what contributed to the fact that like just putting all these hurdles on people not having representation, people not having ways to actually represent themselves, ways to translate the documents, ways to elaborate, to talk to someone who can say, you know what, your case is like this, but we need to, like, the way they wanted to hear it is this way, because it's like you're studying for a test. Because it's like sometimes you say like, I'm going to study for the test, and it's not. And sometimes people are like, I know the whole content, but if you don't study for the test to see the way the test is being asked of you, you will fail because you have not prepared for the structure of the test. And it's the same thing. So I know my love story. I know what happened to me, and I know it applies to it. But if I'm not actually telling the way you want to hear it, it's not the same.
Yeah. It's one of those things where no matter how much, for those that are kind of like staying aware of politics and the way the last administration, and to be clear, the current administration, I do need to say this quickly because folks think that just because Robinette, did you know that Biden's middle name was Robinette? It is. And I love it. And his mama named him Robinette, so I call him President Robinette. President Robinette and VP Harris, they see them as like these symbols of hope, like, oh, it's so much better. But same administration that y'all thought was going to come save us just reopened a month ago, right? The children's facilities that Trump had opened in the summer of 2019 and that were so heavily protested were closed after a month, right? Like, and of course, they use the excuse of the pandemic and this, that, the other. But how about instead of using that money to transport, to move, to operate those detention, internment camps for children, you spend that time, money, energy, and resources trying to reunify them with their families. Get them appropriate lawyers, right? Like that would have been the right move. Not, we're going to reopen these camps that people protested at so severely that we had to close them down. No. Once again, because they're not here to save us. But Robinette Harris is not the solution. Just because it's an easier opponent to defeat doesn't mean it's the people that we need on our side. Like, it looks nicer, but like, I really need people to understand that, because a lot of folks think like he's gone, Robinette reversed through executive order a lot of the, initial executive orders that the Trump administration had passed. But it didn't fix anything. It just took us back to ground zero. It took us back to the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. Like, I mean, I perfectly agree with you. Yeah, there's not much to. I mean, I honestly, to be honest, honestly, I was not very optimistic about it when I did not. I thought it was impossible for him to sort of like undo what MPP had done. And I mean, I applaud the fact that, I mean, at least the people who had been stuck for like 2 years, they're sort of crossing right now. For me, that's something that I never thought it was going to happen, to be honest. However, the job is not just undo what happened; it's just go further.
Exactly. Because I mean, my argument is
we're not when Trump fell on our laps, we're not in a good place.
Exactly. And people wouldn't have been waiting for 2 years if all of the things that he and his administration did hadn't been put in place, right? It wouldn't have been exacerbated. So it's like, okay, you took us back to pre-Trump. It was bad then too.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't good. It hasn't been good. The way that we criminalize and dehumanize individuals who are literally seeking just basic safety.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that is truly what asylum is. Like, what you're saying is you're going to open your borders to people whose, whether it's because of their identities, whether it's because of, the cartels, whether it's political, whatever it is, their home country is simply not safe. That existing in that country, in their identities or in their bodies, is potentially a death sentence, if you will. Yeah. And the fact that we can't just say, you know what? That's terrible. We have infrastructure. We have resources. And yes, we're going to open ourselves up to you to provide that safety. Like, to further criminalize people. It will never, that's how I feel. I don't have words.
Yeah,
I just don't.
Yeah. You're right. I agree with you. There's nothing else like,
Right. We're like, yep, okay, end of episode. That's that. No. I do, however, so, you get your asylum, you start working with Felicia and the Sidewalk School.
At the same time this is happening, all these trials are happening. I'm working with Felicia at the Sidewalk School.
Right.
It evolved from like once a week on a Sunday to like every day to what it is right now with pandemic, which is like a virtual kind of thing. Yeah,
I know. I love it. She told us all about it last time. I think what y'all are doing is so amazing.
It is,
and obviously,
it's cool.
Yeah, no, I'll toot your horn for you. It's amazing. You're like, yeah, no, I mean, it's all right. Like, it's cool. We're like saving people and giving them medicine and educating them and tablets and no big deal. No, it's kind of epic. It's amazing. So last time when Felicia was here, she obviously told everybody, like, how can we support, what can we do to support Sidewalk School? I'm going to go, in the spirit of going one step further. How can people support asylum seekers or organizations that are, or there particular organizations that they can support that are supporting asylum seekers? What might they be able to do to go one step further?
I think the first thing that people need to do before even thinking about I'm gonna give you $10 or $5 is educate yourself. Find what's happening. Don't just follow the news.
Mm-mm.
Investigate. See, this is what's
Mm-mm.
happening. This is, and go further down the rabbit hole. You'll find the people who are actually working there, because that's how people have found, for example, the Sidewalk School. Because we were just like 10 people trying to do something for these kids in there, and then just try to educate yourself, find the people who are doing what they're doing. I mean, you can follow the, for example, the Sidewalk School. I mean, Felicia's very present on social media and
Mm-hmm.
what the school does, but there are other organizations at the border. Like I was also working at the same time with this also great organization called Global Response Management with us, medical work, and so there's a lot of place to help. There's a lot of people who do help, but I think that the good thing about it is that people should first like try to see what's really happening, and then you can go forward and like investigate and then just find the organizations that are doing it, because like honestly, from experience, that at least at Matamoros, or what I saw, I mean, these grassroots organizations, small organizations, are the ones actually doing the hard work,
Yeah.
to be honest. Because like this whole other huge organizations are coming at the end and like just like doing
Yeah,
whatever.
they come, they swoop in, and they're like, "Look, you're welcome." And you're like,
Yes.
"Where were you for the last 3 years, Red Cross?"
Yeah. Hmm.
I would actually I'm going to take it a step further. You let me know if this is not helpful,
Yeah.
but I'm ideating here out loud based on everything
Yeah.
that you've told us. If you're a lawyer, if you're a native Spanish speaker that has is bilingual, or if you are a native English speaker that has a really strong grasp on Spanish and understands that you need to slow down and make sure that you are properly translating, not translating it how you understand it, right? If you have any sort of medical expertise, if you
Yeah.
have, right, like those skill sets are skills that are so necessary. So a lot of
Yeah.
times we do hear, right, the like, oh, give money, give money, give money. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. But you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have people that are willing to come and translate,
Right.
are willing to come and provide legal advice, are willing to come and provide medical support, education, whatever it is, then what's your money going to do? Because you don't have the hands and the brains and and the skill sets to do the thing. It's like in the apocalypse, if we don't have farmers, you and I are going to die, Ray. Right? Like we are. It's
We're gonna find
just
some
the
people who
truth.
need someone to talk. Right?
Exactly. But you and I have skill sets. We're going to go find some farmers and we're going to say, hey, y'all do that. We do this. Let's
Yes.
survive together.
Yeah.
And that's
But we'll try to-
fundamentally, but that's fundamentally what we need to do here, right? So I really want to urge people. These tent cities and asylum exist all along the border. 1, 2, asylum seekers are everywhere. You don't necessarily know it, but they're there, they exist. And I'm not saying go just be like, hey, are you an asylum seeker? Do you need help? There are organizations that will put you in touch. You just have to show up and say,
like everywhere in every city, there are organizations who need help, who need volunteers translating, who need volunteers.
Yes.
If you're as you said, a lawyer and have like extra time, you can take a case of someone. You can help apply for someone for a work permit, or help someone apply for a green card, or translate someone's documents. So it's not. You don't need to go to the border
No.
because there's a thing that I always talk to Felicia. It's like there's a lot of people talking about like when you reach the border and there's a lot of resources there, but like we go places inside the United States, and when we go, we're just left to our devices, and maybe some people don't have the support network that they need. So these organizations exist in the United States. There's plenty of
everywhere.
them, and they all need volunteers. That they all need people who can translate, who can work, whatever. So that's a great way to help as well.
Yeah.
To be honest.
And I will say, I'm going to expand what I said. I said Spanish speakers because we were talking about, Cuba and the experience in Mexico, but there are, in fact, immigrants from all over the world who speak all kinds of languages. So if you have a grasp on a second language, or you're, a native XYZ other than English speaker who also has a grasp on English as your second language, speaking multiple languages, I cannot tell you how important it is to have somebody who understands the language, has even just a little bit of cultural competency, and is truly present to make sure that you are seen and heard, and is prioritizing your messaging and advocating for you and your humanity. Because I don't know, I'm sure this has happened to you. You've been in a situation where like you can see that there's like a language disconnect, and you're like, ooh, I speak that language. And like, I've done it. I just step in and I speak to the person who's not speaking English, and I speak, in whatever language we both speak. And I'm like, hey, I speak English. Like, can I help you here? And then immediately they're like, it's almost like tears. Like, yes, please, like, help me, right? That moment for some people is so impactful, because it's probably the first moment, especially in a process of seeking asylum or protection or green cards, where they've actually just like, they can almost breathe. And they're like, this person is here to see me, hear me, support me, and actually is on my side, instead of what we do to people right now, right? So, and that's, you know what, even if you're just at like, I don't know, Starbucks and you see it happening, if you speak another language, please step in and help somebody. But it's like, go use those skill sets. Like, if you have the skill set, use it. It's not always about the big protest. It's not always about the money. It's literally about the everyday. What can I do to try to make somebody else's lived experience safer, more comfortable, peaceful, more accessible, more resourced?
Right. Yeah. That's just it. What it boils down to, that is like, try to help people either, I mean, whatever they are. I mean, you don't need to actually go to the border and find people like trying to cross. No, I mean, we are here and we need help everywhere.
Mm-hmm. If you even just go to like your consulate, or not your consulate, but like look at what consulates, if you're like, I don't know what organizations to go look at the consulates that exist in your city. If you don't live in a big city, I mean, I can say that because I'm in the Bay Area, and San Francisco has like 19,000 of them. But if you're not in a place that has a lot of consulates, fine, you can find out from the closest consulate, like, what organizations do you work with that provide support?
Like, organization provides support for like migrants.
Rainier, people don't use Google. They want us to do the work for them because it's too easy, even though Google is free. I'm just kidding. My listeners know. They know better. They will Google because they're amazing. And they also hear me yell at them all the time saying, you know what's free? Google. You know what's not? Me. Ooh, that should go on a shirt in your Etsy shop too.
Oh, yeah.
We could do a collaborative shirt. Cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. I'm not free. Google is.
Boom. Done. Ray, is there anything else that you want to leave the people with, to think about, to know about, or anything that you just feel is left unsaid that you want to make sure gets auditorily documented? Yeah, that's the right word.
I would say like I mean, I'm guessing people are, people who are like listening all this way in already have like enough information and enough education about the topic, but like there are people who are not educated about it, or who don't know, or don't want to search information about it, or don't want to Google it. And sometimes what we best we can do is just like enlighten people and say, you know what, that's not how it is. I mean, you can do this, or like, this is how it's happening. So just spread the word, and just like educate people as much as you can without having to knock someone's door. But like, just, like, hello, I'm here to educate you about this. No, but like, just like spread the word of what's happening. Say like, like, this is not the way it is. Whatever. Just like bottom line, make people understand that it is not. I mean, lately I've been hearing all these words about like a surge and migrants and like a wave, and these are people, humans. You describe surge and a wave for other things, animals and like whatever, water, for stuff like that.
I was gonna say the ocean, electricity.
Yeah, these are people. Humans who have their own stories, who have been through a lot, who no one travels through a bunch of countries, a bunch of very dangerous places on foot for months for no reason.
Right.
So just like always remember that behind all those like news and all that, there's a person there.
Yeah.
A person who has needs, who have been through a lot, and who needs help. And if you can, just why not? Why not help?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that
It
that's
is.
such an important thing to leave people with to think about. What position would you have to be in your life to leave everything that you know and travel an incredible distance over months through, to your point, treacherous land, political climates, cartel country, on foot, just in the hopes that when you get to the other side, it's going to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
If you get to the other side. Like you're even just taking the chance. I think that that's a really, really impactful way to frame it for people, especially here in the States, because people are comfortable. And that's just the reality. Thank you so much for being here. This was such a...
me.
Of course. Anytime you want to come back. Anytime you want to come back, I will
This
gladly
was
have
very
you.
entertaining and very... Yeah, I liked it. It was fun. No, it was fun. I mean, I've talked about it a billion times, and but I haven't done it in a while. So,
well, thank you for sharing your story with us and with me. It is not lost on me that there's so much more that was left unsaid, and the weight of what wasn't said, and so I truly, truly am very honored and very appreciative of your willingness and your openness of just recounting it over and over and over and over again.
No, like as I've said it over and over before, it's like if by my story someone is gonna take the time to Google it and do their part, then I'm done. I've done whatever what I tried and I did.
You tried your best, and that's all you could do. There we go.
Yes.
What a perfect callback and way to end an episode. All right, y'all. You have your calls to action. You know what to do. All the links for Sidewalk School and all that good stuff will be in this episode as well in the show notes. And until next time, that's all I got. All right. Bye. All right, y'all. That's all I got. But don't forget your action items. 1, join me on Podia, where you can get access to tons of BTS content, including a very special Weeze interview with all of our guests. 2, rate, review, especially a written review. Subscribe, like, and share this podcast with all of your peoples. 3, if you aren't already, go peep me on IG. Follow me there. And, most importantly, keep coming back. All right, until next time, toodles!